home today that this is your first Q&A?
Oh, yes. That would be correct.
Oh, they're very strenuous. I'm going to start with you. I planned to start with Paul, but who you are sitting next to me.
Okay.
First of all, I think, I'm pretty sure, especially based on the laughs and the applause, that I think this is an opinion shared. That is an unbelievable debut performance. It's an unbelievable performance. Obviously, you've been in front of crowds, you've been on the stage, but I take it that this process entirely different.
Yeah, usually people don't want to hear me talk. They want to hear me sing.
You can sing if you want.
No, I have to be serious. I'm an actress now. Yeah, this was my first time doing anything like this at all, and it was maybe the best experience of my life. I think it is the best experience of my life. I mean, I think you can tell when you watch it.
Well, I mean, that's saying something. You've been in front of crowds playing live music, thousands of people. To most of us, to me, that would seem like the greatest experience one could have.
I've been trying to go solo since birth, so it just took, this time to make it happen. Sorry, my sibling, SD, is in the crowd. She's not going to like that answer, but...
Paul, a lot of questions to get to, but let's start with the idea, where it began, and how you cast it.
Well, about 20 years ago, I was going for a walk in my neighborhood, and it must have been about October, because it was picture day at the junior high down the street, Portola High School, and I saw this little kid nagging the girl who was working for the company that was taking pictures. And I logged it in my brain. For a walk in my neighborhood, and it must have been about October, because it was picture day at the junior high down the street, Portola High School, and I saw this little kid nagging the girl who was working for the company that was taking pictures. And I logged it in my brain as there's a nice dynamic there. That's a good story. What would happen if, against all her better judgments, that girl turned up for dinner, you know? I kind of imagined it like that dynamic that happened in John Cassavetes' movie Gloria, where this little boy, and he's always screaming at Jenna Rollins, and they have this full-blown, like, adult relationship, but, you know, he's 7 and she's 45, you know? But anyway, it went away, and I didn't have anything to do with it. And over the years, my friendship with Gary, who gets me, who many people know, has yielded many fantastic Valley stories. Starting a waterbed company, starting a pinball palace, being part of the cast of Yours, Mine, Ours with Lucille Ball, and traveling to the Ed Sullivan Show, and not being able to go because his mom was working, so he got a burlesque dancer named Kiki Page to be his chaperone. You know, it was just like one extravagant story after the other. And that's great, but and there's a combination of those two stories, but until I have, after working with Alana for a couple of years in other ways, sort of looked at her one day and realized, like, there's 3 rivers that are colliding right here, and they can become one stream.
Okay, so you worked with her in some other ways, so you're doing music videos, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But you've done a lot of music videos. I take it you don't normally take people in the band or a singer and think, oh, I'm gonna put them in a major motion picture.
They're not all Alana Haim. But no offense to SD and Danielle, who are awesome. But no, to wax her car in front of her, there was clearly like there was like overabundance of talent. But the gulf between having a lot of talent and actually harnessing it and being able to do something else, which is acting, movie acting, can be vast. But she didn't just get the part. We did. I mean, she did have the part. But we did tests. We did tons and tons of tests.
We brought Cooper into the mix and we did tons and tons of screen tests, just like in the old days. And
But were these screen tests in the traditional sense, like against other people, or were they screen tests to get the people you wanted to the level that you needed them to be at?
No, that's a great question. They were screen tests with, that I would pretend they were just helping me do camera tests, but really I was testing to see, you know, I was seeing if they were, you know, ready to hit the streets, basically, and ready for, and they were, and we all kind of knew we were aiming towards this thing, and essentially it was, you could call it a screen test or you could call it practice. I mean, whether it was an iPhone walking through the streets in New York and just sort of improvising dialogue and doing stuff like that, or taking it to another level and bringing in lights and camera and sound and a bunch of people staring at you while you're doing it, you're sort of baby stepping up towards, here's what this process is going to be.
But when you got serious about Licorice Pizza, you were thinking Alana and Cooper, or did that take a bit?
No, I mean, it was always Alana, and then, you know, a couple months later, it was, you know, who do I know that's like 16 and has a lot of charisma and I've known all my life and has a lot of charm? That kid, okay. Let's go make a movie.
Alana, how is there a compelling way to describe the difference between working with Paul Thomas Anderson on a music video from your band with your sisters, and then is it substantively different working with him on a major motion picture?
I mean, I feel like the second that me and my family and Paul met, we immediately became like a unified family. Like, I wish I was an Anderson. Like, I wish I was the oldest. But sorry, Esty, again. But I mean,
so you want to dump your sisters?
I want to dump my sisters and join a new family.
And you want out of the whole family?
I just want out. I want out. I've always wanted to. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, coming on a movie set is obviously very, very different from doing a music video. I mean, there is a lot of, you know, thinking about what am I doing today. I was completely alone. I didn't have my siblings who are my security blanket, and especially, I don't know if you all know this, but we shot this during COVID, which was very insane. And we had an incredible team that kept us safe, and I couldn't see my family for months because, you know, there's protocols and, you know, ways of making everybody that was on set safe. So I was completely alone. And that is the first time I can say that in my life. I've always had my siblings with me, and coming to set every day and being by myself, doing this amazing, incredible movie. And yeah, so it was very different, but beautiful. I loved it, and it made me weirdly find my independence, which was very nice, and I loved it.
When you make a music video, you're usually a day or 2 days, and this is 65 days, and it's, you know, you're in a whole other mindset. But hopefully you get to the same feeling, which is of lightness. I mean, you know, that making a music video, somehow there's a little bit of pressure off, and you're just sort of moving quickly and rapidly. You have to take that energy, but you have to sustain it for 65 days, and that was probably the biggest difference. But at the end of the day, there's a camera, there's some lights, and you're trying to do something good each day.
So Paul, I mean, you know, whether it's with Cooper's dad, with Philip Seymour Hoffman, or whether it's with Daniel Day-Lewis, Philip Baker Hall, or any of these outstanding Julianne Moore, these amazing actors who you've worked with, it has to be different. Is your job different with two such inexperienced leads?
Yes, it is. In many respects, but you are still for any of them, experienced or non-experienced, you are the audience, the one and only audience, whether it's Daniel or Alana or Cooper. You're there to sit by the camera and be a reaction for them, you know, to participate with them as best you can in the performance, to catch what they're giving. So that doesn't go away. To have them feel safe, comfortable, ambitious. All of those things are the same. But with Alana and Cooper, you know, you have to show them like where craft service is, or you have to show them, you know, but the amazing thing to watch from my perspective is a learning curve for somebody that, you know, even though we've done these days and days and days of tests, they still were like banging into the furniture on day 1. But by day 3, they weren't banging into the furniture anymore. By day 5, they were so loose and so aggressive with what they were doing that it was just a joy to watch. You know, it's very steep learning curve from both of them.
Let's tell me about running.
Oh, who's that directed to, me or Paul?
Both.
A lot of running.
A lot of running.
I was so fit. It was great.
I think I don't know. I think it's one of those accidental themes that sort of emerges from a movie. It was never sort of by design.
No, so it's not, you didn't write.
I did. I wrote everything. They're running. They run. They run. And then and it was must be one of those things that you sort of. And then when I see it all put together, I look, they're fucking running a lot. But it took me back to. Yeah, that's right. I feel like I was always running when I was a kid. You're always running somewhere. You're running away from something, to something, whatever it was. You were always running, and even if you weren't running, you were on the move. That sort of emerged as this kind of unforeseen theme that, you know, we probably could have cut some running out, but we ended up putting more in, probably.
So my family is from here. My dad grew up here. My mother's from San Bernardino, but I was born in D.C. and I've been here 20 years. But I have this visceral, you know, my hair stands up when people make fun of LA, as if I'm from here. I see, it feels like that if this city, and specifically one part of this city, wanted to do a PR campaign, that you guys would be the 2 people to hire, right? To say, no, we love LA and here's why, and you should too.
We love LA, but we love the Valley.
Right, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, are you guys from the Valley? I didn't
Did you not
realize
know that? It's shocking.
If anybody if the mayor has a PR campaign and they want to hire us, whoever is going to run next, we're completely available because, and hopefully it shows in the work that we do, that there's an affection for this place. I mean, that's why we're here tonight. There's an affection that I have for this theater. That's why I've dragged us all here. Thank you for coming. You know, there's a few of these left, and I'm not just talking about in LA. I'm talking about in the world, and this is one of them, and it's here for us to use. So don't get me started because it'll go on. There's a list as long as stuff that I love about this city. You're an honorary member, by the way.
Well, thank you. It's good too, and I feel because my folks are here, you know, that gives me a little street cred. But what is it about the Valley that people who either mock it or don't want to go, what are they missing?
You know, I've been asked that question my whole life because I love the Valley so much. I think it really comes down to growing up, there is that air of like, the Valley, and it like weirdly makes you very proud of it.
Right, sure.
And I love it so much because everyone hated on it. Thank you for clapping. I see my Valleyites. I see you. I feel you. I feel the Valley vibe. Great 1-8. But yeah, just everyone hated on it, and to me, I had the best childhood. I mean, it was running. We were running around. We were outside in the 110-degree weather, searching for a pool, befriending people because they have pools. I did not have a pool. Very rare in the Valley, but it was the best place to grow up, and I feel like when you find another person that loves the Valley as much as, you know, I do, it's the best connection that you have, and I mean, what can I say? I love it.
I think, you know, it's like, it's well documented, my love for it. But, you know, I think there's this impression that movies are made in Hollywood, you know, Hollywood. And it's like, no, they're actually made in the Valley, you know? And if they're shot on this side of the hill, everybody that really actually makes them, from the technicians to the craftsmen, drive there from the Valley and then drive back home. So it's sort of like the history of movies, which I know you and I share this insane affection for, is really the Valley. It's not Hollywood. I would go so far as to say. So that's
So I think, let me make sure I got, well, you'll tell me, 1996 or 7 for Hard Eight?
It was 1996.
6. So it's 25 years. The 9 movies in 25 years. All of them weighty, important, worth seeing. What is how do you pick them? You obviously don't go quickly, and it's not really slow, or it seems like deliberate, paced. Does something have to really strike you?
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, in this instance, I had finished a movie, Phantom Thread, that took me far from home, in a world that I had absolutely no prior knowledge to until I, you know, became hooked in its claws to sort of learn about dressmaking in the 50s. And I had planned on making another film that I'd been writing for a while. And in the middle of that, found myself distracted by this one and by this stories that Gary had told me and this kernel from before, and it felt impossible to ignore. So I just redirected all this energy into something that was right in front of my face. Yeah, I know this writer friend who says, like, sometimes when you're struggling with something, because I had been struggling with writing this other piece, this writer friend of mine says, you know, the answer is always right in front of your face. And it's generally very true in writing as you struggle. Like, there's pieces on the floor that are there for you, and this was right in front of me, and it was an opportunity to work close to home, to work with my family, to work immediately, and we just sort of seized it in a way that moved much faster than I probably normally had.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Does that mean that when you put the other piece aside, you start on this, that it was pretty quick, or at least quick for you?
It was very rapid, yeah. It was like skiing down a slope and with no brakes. And then it only paused for a moment. We were meant to start in May, and then we ended up starting in August.
Yeah, there were a lot of Andersons in the movie. I don't know if everybody caught that in the credits. Was that good? Is that an enjoyable? What are you going to say? No, they're here for crying out loud. Yeah, but obviously that must have been nice.
It was heaven. There's a lot of Andersons, there's a lot of Rudolphs, there's a lot of Haims, there's a lot of all of our extended families and friends families, many of which are here. I'll fail in describing the joy that it was, but yeah, it was a pleasure.
So, Alana, I can't tell you how taken I was with this performance, and I'm not alone. But you know, your next movie, when I don't know, Michael Bay calls, he's whoever it is, he may not hire your sisters, right? You won't have Paul, right? You may. By the way, I'm sure you may. I sense you're about to be part of the troupe, the acting, the Paul Thomas Anderson acting troupe. But nonetheless, so are you? This is your future? A little bit of it? Part of your future now?
You know, I had the best time. I mean, thinking back to every morning on this shoot, like I woke up at 5 a.m. every morning with bells on, waiting. I remember texting Paul and being like, I don't want to go home. Like I never wanted to leave set. I would have slept there if I could. And I knew the only thing that was great about it was I was like, if I go to sleep, then I'll wake up and then I get to go back on set. And that was how I felt every single day. And it was the most amazing experience. And if I get to do it again, that would be great. I would be very honored.
Did you ever have a moment, given that were there school plays? Did you do those?
I did. Embarrassing enough, yes, I did. I was the Wicked Witch of the West twice.
No, twice.
Twice.
Wow.
I got to do it again. If one wasn't enough, I got to do it all again. But yes, I was in
So
school
you did
plays.
good. I mean, you got.
I did good.
Back. Yeah.
Once in middle school, once in high school. I grew, I got better by senior year, I hope.
During those 65 days, was there ever, there must have been some moments of, where you weren't thinking, I can't wait till tomorrow, where you thought, oh man, this is not it, I'm a rock star, I'm trying to do something I'm not capable. I mean, I can't, you probably don't go around thinking I'm a rock star. But where you thought, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'm not.
I remember in reading the script, there was always one part that always terrified me because there's a very large part of Alana's character that's an incredible driver, and I am not that. I am not an incredible driver, and on top of everything, I did not know how to drive stick shift, and on top of everything, I did not know how to drive a stick shift 70s U-Haul down a hill. So those days were definitely, thankfully they were very close to the beginning of shooting, so I got to get it over with. But once I tackled the 70s U-Haul, I was good to go. Everything else was great.
That is her driving the truck, by the way.
That is,
yeah.
Woo! Thank you.
That's like her. She does her own stunts. She drove that fucking truck, which is so dangerous now that I look back at it. I think there must have been a better way to do that. But I'm sort of I'm the director, and this has to be real. You have to really drive this truck. And now I look at it like that's a terrible idea. Someone really would have gotten hurt.
Well, the last interview that I did for TCM was with William Friedkin, where we again talked about the French Connection, where we again talked about the badness of that chase scene. So I suspect yours, you guys were, I'm sure, took every possible precaution.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it was still me behind the wheel. So.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, you knew even before we started. I'm a terrible driver.
I did know that.
Yeah.
That's why we got your driving license.
There you go.
You got
No
the
acting lessons, but gave her driving lessons.
Yeah.
Sure.
Tell people who don't know what's Licorice Pizza.
Licorice Pizza, for those who don't know, was a record store that was predominantly based in Southern California, only based in Southern California, and there was a few in the Valley. While we have no licorice and no pizza in the movie, and we have no record stores in the movie, I suppose to hear two words together that make me salivate and remember my childhood, and you kind of flash me back. It's Licorice Pizza. It puts me in a place as an adolescent immediately. And this film struggled for many, many months trying to find a title. We all still call it something different, but I'm kind of reminded of the Hungarian proverb that a child with many nicknames is much loved. So this title amongst us has many different titles, but the one that we decided on seemed to somewhere between flipping a coin and kind of going for this idea that would rock a memory bank to anybody who was there, entice somebody else. We ended up with Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard of Licorice Pizza, and it's a great title. I fear that I read this on Wikipedia, and I try never to ask a question that is solely from Wikipedia. But was the other title Soggy Bottom? Was that?
Well, it was never a title. It was just the shitty name of the company that the kids start, which I had wrong anyway.
Was that the real company? Is that what Gary called the bed company?
I thought it was, but it was actually Foggy Bottom. And I got it wrong. But like any writer, you kind of hear just what you need to, and then you run away like a thief, and you're like, I got it. And then, you know, you spread this lie through the land, and it was, no, the name of his company, he had a few. As I continued to research this sort of behind his back, as I would go to the LA Times, old LA Times, and I would sort of notice, like, well, you've got a company called Boat Afloat, you've got Foggy Bottom, and Slumber Float was the other one. And so somewhere along the way, yeah, Soggy Bottom was just our production title's name, but Maya still calls it Soggy Bottom. You know, so.
No, Licorice Pizza is a really good title. It's a really good title. And then, so here, Alana, so this was from the New Yorker and then the Independent, but it just seems too good a story to actually be true that the first concert was at Cantor's Deli and you were paid in matzo ball soup.
That is correct. That is true.
Jesus, do you still get paid in like soup or, you know, different kinds of soup? Yeah.
I love matzo ball soup, and I love the matzo ball soup at Cantor's. And it was a great gig. I was like, I think I was 7 or 8, and I mean, much like the Partridge Family, I had a band with my parents, and we were called Rockenheim, and our first gig was at the Kibitz Room at Cantor's Deli, and we got paid in matzo ball soup, and it's one of the best gigs I've ever had.
I'm not a good Jew. I don't like matzo balls.
You don't like matzo balls? It's a shunda.
No, I know. It's they're too chewy. They're too.
You haven't had my mom's matzo balls. I'll invite you over. You'll come to Passover and you'll have my mother's matzo ball soup.
And since my father grew up in a movie family, I'm going to tell this very brief story because we're talking about matzah. My dad, he didn't like the fasting part of being Jewish because he got hungry, and so you know, like whenever you had to fast, he would do it for like 6 hours, and then he would be like, "Well, I can have matzah, right? I mean, that seems fair. So let's have some matzah, but you can't have plain matzah. So let's put some peanut butter on it." And then he'd be like, "Well, but then you got to put jelly on it if you're going to put peanut butter on it, and then you just might as well put another piece of matzah on top." So just basically, my dad would have a sandwich and somehow tell himself that he was fasting. He wasn't a good Jew either. I can't tell you how. First of all, I'm honored. Well, let me ask you this, Paul. Before I am honored, but I'm going to ask you this first. So, this is a business question and an artistic question. Obviously, you get Bradley Cooper, you get Sean Penn, and whoever else I might be forgetting, Ben Stiller, a very small bit there. John C. Reilly, right? Also small.
Yeah, Ben Stiller's not in there. No, no. You're talking. John C. Reilly is playing the real Herman Munster.
Right. No, Ben's not in there.
No.
Who's the camera assistant?
The camera assistant. Who's the camera assistant? Does somebody look like Ben Stiller?
I'm stunned that Ben Stiller's not in your movie.
No.
Who are you?
I'm Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
He's talking about the guy that was next to Sean Penn.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, that's a very famous director named Sam Harpoon.
That guy looks like Ben Stiller.
Yeah, looks like Ben Stiller.
And because he's,
that's anti-Semitic.
Because he looks like he's in disguise.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the fantastic Sam Harpoon. No.
Let me just go back to the part where I wasn't an idiot.
But you were talking about John Reilly and.
Yeah. So Bradley Cooper and Sean Penn, they were in it. Don't tell me they weren't. Does that help sell the movie, or is that just you think that it'd be fun to have these guys in there?
Well, to be honest with you, no. The movie was gonna be made with Mike DeLuca and the folks at MGM without them. And as a matter of fact, I think you have to ask yourself a couple questions before you get somebody like that in the movie, because this movie belongs to Cooper and Alana, and you don't want to disrupt an audience's immersion with them. But if you cast them right, which I think we did, Sean comes along at a moment just about at the halfway mark, And I feel, as an audience member and as a fan of Sean, that there's this warmth that comes in, this movie star power and warmth, which I think has a fantastic effect on the plot and the story at that very moment. You know, you're seeing a veteran of this business, a person that we all love and respect and admire, and is so full of talent. And here he comes, and he's going to be this sort of stand-in for William Holden. So the entrance in, I think it's nice for an audience, and it's nice for her to play off of, and more to the point, it's nice to threaten Cooper with. And then again, when you see when you see Ben Stiller, you think, oh, this is going to be hilarious. No, when you see Bradley Cooper come on playing, you know, sort of famous Hollywood movie producer, you're using their notoriety in a strategic way for the story.
Why did John Peters get his real name and William Holden didn't?
That's a very good question. That's a great question. And I'm realizing now with a certain sort of distance that you know, when you make a film, let's say, sometimes you can use the cover of a fictional name, but it's based on somebody else. I watched so much TCM that I was convinced that, well, I don't want him to have to do a William Holden impression because everybody knows who William Holden is. But I'm like, you know, older and delusional when he's sort of like, not really. Not a lot of people are going to go see the movie. Yes, film fans and probably everybody here might, but so you sort of switch it for your convenience. Also, you don't want to say you're doing an impression. You know, we have a kind of stand-in for an Ed Sullivan show, but you don't want to have somebody doing an Ed Sullivan show.
And same with Lucy.
Exactly, same with Lucy. But John Peters is important to be John Peters because I think well, first of all, that story came about because Gary's buddies delivered a waterbed to John Peters' house. And I said, what happened? And they said nothing. He was the nicest guy in the whole world. And he let us have some sodas and we put the waterbed together and he went out to the movies with Barbara. And I, as a greedy, thirsty writer, said, well, that's not very dramatic at all. You know, why don't we do something else? But to place yourself in the mind at that time and have it touch reality a little bit is that Barbara Streisand is the absolute peak of her powers. You sort of, you know, What's Up, Doc was probably right in that time. She's a huge shadow that would loom over certainly this business and certainly this town, and probably a girl like Alana growing up in the Valley. You can't ignore that. So to have John Peters, you sort of use that. You use that as a way to touch to reality, but all keeping a slight distance from it.
And it gave you the line. I mean, it let you do. Just say her name correctly.
Oh, Barbara Streisand. Barbara Streisand. Yeah.
So, was she a big deal to you as a kid?
Barbara Streisand?
Yes. Well done. Nice. Yeah.
Yes. She's everything, and she is, I mean, I bend the knee to Barbara Streisand. I mean, I think she's the most incredible everything. I mean, she did everything, and she's just the greatest, and I get to Clem's talking about her, so I love her. I'm obsessed with her, I love her. Please love me.
We did I don't know, it was a month of her movies, and I spent a long, because I knew she might be watching. I think about that often when we do TC, you know, who these people could be watching. I gotta make sure what we're saying is fresh and new and clever. And I said Streisand. I guess because her publicist called, was like, "That was great. The night was great. Ben should learn how to pronounce her name." Yeah, nicely.
Love it.
And I've never gotten it wrong since. This was a pleasure. I sensed these people were entertained and they felt things. Alana, Haim, so good, so wonderful. Thank you. Great work. Writer, director, Paul Thomas Anderson. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Ben.
Drive back to the valley safely, everybody.